start off with a little secret for you. Hello, you beautiful people. Come a little bit closer. Maybe a little bit closer. You are not indestructible. You're not invincible. Not you, not me, not anyone. And that is why we need, what do we need? We need the letter R. Yes, indeed. P for imperfect. We're on R, blabbing on and on and on about resilience. So let's get started. We are gonna face setbacks and defeats. In fact, probably 90% of the time. I mean, look, as humans, we evolved to live in the most extreme situations. We failed over and over and over and over again until we found ways and strategies to survive. And that's been the same with every development we've ever made, whether it be a song written or an invention, you know, apart from the happy accidents, of which there are very, very few, much fewer than we're led to believe. Most success is the result of continual failure. Failure, lesson, iteration. Failure, lesson, iteration. Failure, lesson, iteration. That's evolution. That's success. That's how we create success. You want to get better at something, fail faster, right? So if that's how we succeed, if that's how we learn is through failure, then our ability to deal with failure is our ability to succeed. And what is it we need to be able to deal with failure? Resilience, right? Resilience, the act of being able to keep getting up, up and up, to weather any storm, to keep going and survive, right? And that's just not a recipe for success. That's just a recipe for survival, right? Life is hard. Life is hard. You're going to get knocked down. The worst things that you can think of will happen at some stage. I'm going to go here again, that cheery subject. But if you're in a relationship with someone, you're lucky enough to be in a relationship with the person of your dreams, and you stay together to the end, there will be an end. And unless it's a terrible accident where you're both together, one of you is going to watch the other one die. And one of you is going to have to learn to live on after that. One of you is going to have to be resilient enough to show up and keep showing up for themselves or for the rest of the family, right? We need to cultivate resilience to thrive and survive. It's the secret ingredient. Why? I mean, if it's important to life, it's going to be important to the men's personal development journey, to doing the work. But why specifically is it so important about doing the work journey? Because there's going to be a lot of failure. Because you're going to have to do things over and over and over and over again. You know, if you're trying to understand yourself better, if you're trying to put new strategies in place, you know, unless you find one of these quick fix 28 days to greatness things that actually fucking works, and I challenge you to do that, because I don't think they do, you're going to have to try things over and over again. You have to try and model it, do it. Failure. Got a little bit better. Let me learn that. Let me tweak that part. Suddenly you succeed. That's the same with the men's personal development journey. That's the same with doing the work. You're going to have to keep showing up. You're going to have to keep showing up. You're going to have to keep learning about yourself. That's often going to be painful. You're going to have to keep facing the parts of you that don't work, as well as celebrating the parts that do. But I've done a whole video about that a while ago. But you're going to keep looking at the pieces of you that don't work. You're going to have to look at the habits and the strategies that are not working for you. And you're going to have to try new ones. And before they succeed, you will fail. So you're going to have to learn to be resilient on this journey. So, you know, one of the problems I have with these things like resilience, it's like self-love. You know, we get told we have to do this stuff a lot, but we don't often get told how. Like, how do you build resilience, right? I mean, someone told me one good thing, that as long as you can keep breathing, you're being resilient, right? As long as we keep going, we're being resilient. But I'd like to give you something a little bit more practical than that. You know, if we're going to build resilience, it's really a 4-step journey. First of that is perception, right? So we have to change what we mean by failure and hardship. So rather than seeing it as failure, rather than seeing it as hardship, we have to start looking at these things as an opportunity to growth. Every failure is an opportunity to learn a new lesson. Every setback is an opportunity to try a new iteration. Every hardship is an opportunity to grow. You know, and that sounds like woo-woo, but it's true. You know, some of you know, watch the stuff that I put out, or you may know me personally, will know I lost a son, you know, and of course that was painful, and of course I'd never want to go through it again. But what I often tell people now is my son that died, Finley, he gave me one of the greatest gifts that anyone's ever given me, because he taught me how important life was and how important love was. And he really taught me how to open my heart and love the son that I had, even more than I had already. You know, because suddenly I just knew what it would be like to lose that person that I love. And it taught me to love, it taught me to open up, it taught me to show vulnerability. It brought me and my partner much closer. You know, that's not always the case. Things like that can destroy couples, but it brought us much closer. And I think in many ways, the crack that I felt, and let me explain that. I had never understood what anyone meant by heartbreak until I held my dead son in my hands. I wouldn't even say arms because it wasn't big enough. It was in my hands. I felt a crack. My heart broke. I'd always just thought it was just a phrase, but it's not. It's true. My heart broke. And the pain of that also allowed me to love in a level that I've never been able to love before. Love in a deepness, with a deepness I've never been able to love before. It lowered the stakes that I thought were much more important around me. And I was going through a difficult time at that time. In many ways than one, more ways than one. And it taught me how to be really vulnerable. It taught me how to ask for help. It taught me to be okay with not being okay. It taught me to be able to feel pain and not try and push it away, not try and dampen it with drink and drugs, to really hold it and become a better person through that, a stronger person through that pain. I now know that when you're dealing with grief like that, you'll hear people say it. It isn't a cliche, it's the truth. There is no way around it. There is no way to get past grief. You can only go through grief. And I believe that when I came out on the other side of that grief, I was a stronger human being. And that's what I mean by perception. That's probably one of the worst things that can happen to anyone. Now I see that it was an opportunity to grow. It's not one that I'd like to take, and it's not one that I'd wish upon everyone else. But if I can look at that as an opportunity to grow, then I can put that perception on anything, which means anything that comes along that's difficult to me, I can see it as an opportunity to grow. And that's hurt, failure, that's anything that would need resilience. So the first part of the sort of 4 pillars of building resilience is perception, right? Let me change what this means. What else could this mean? It could be failure, but rather it's opportunity. It could be pain, might be an opportunity to feel something different. Could be a change of plan, might be the best plan B I've ever come up with, right? Perception. The second is connection. Right? I go on about this all the time, connection. But specifically for men, particularly for men, when we're often told that separation is best, the lone wolf myth. We're a pack animal. And while you're building so to build resilience on this personal development journey, perception, changing what this means, and connection. I'm surrounded by people who can hold me, help me, push me, pull me, carry me, right? So I am more resilient with others than I am on my own, right? There's a bit of a contradiction there, isn't there? Because we think resilient means being self-sufficient. It's not. It's about being able to ask for and use connection, ask for support and use support, right? So the second pillar of being resilient is connection, having people around you who are willing to challenge you and connect you. I could go on about men's groups here, right? But those who know me tell me I bang on about that, maybe too much. But a men's group, there's a really good chance of a way to help you build resilience through connection to other men. You will feel stronger if you're a member of a men's group when something bad happens to you, when something negative happens to you. So we put a spin on things and we seek connection. Purpose. I bang on about purpose as well. Why? We will crawl over broken glass for the right reasons. We will lay down our own life for the right reasons, right? So in terms of resilience, meaning, purpose, the meaning why I'm going through this thing, the meaning why I need to keep going, the purpose why I keep going no matter how painful this is one of the key things that keeps me resilient. I challenge people with this all the time. You'll hear parents, say often, I'll die for my child. And I always push back with, would you live for your child? Would you live for your child? So when things are really, really, really bad, and we think, and I think, and there has been times when I think maybe it'd be better if I'm not here. The only thing that kept me going through it was I knew I didn't want to leave a son behind. Right? Because I've seen the damage that does. And I didn't want to play a part in that. So the meaning of showing up for my son, the meaning of being there for him when he needed me, the purpose in fatherhood is what kept me being resilient. Because it didn't matter what you'd done to me. It didn't matter what anyone could do to me. As long as I could still keep being a father and keep being there and being able to look that boy in the eye, I would keep going. So when I have connection to something bigger and more important than me, which is my definition of meaning or purpose, when I have connection to something bigger and more important than self, than me, it's easy for me to keep going. It's easy for me to keep going. Because we will crawl over glass. We will go through hell for something that means enough to us. Because we often value ourselves quite lowly. Lowly? I don't want to say lowly because that does have another meaning. We put ourselves low on the scale of importance compared to some often to other people or other things. So one of those pillars, the third pillar of building resilience, is meaning, connection to something bigger and more important than self, purpose. Fourth is adaptability, right? We have to willing to change situations. If you've been really rich and suddenly you lose all your money, you might need to get a little bit humble, right? You might have to need to adapt to that situation. If we are rigid, we snap, right? Think of it like trees, right? Strong roots, right? That's your purpose. Got me strong roots, right? But the winds are going to come. Now, if I'm not willing to change direction, I'm going to snap. You watch a tree. I used to be a tree surgeon for a while. Weirdly, don't ask, another story. But I was a tree surgeon for a while. And the first time I ever went up to the top of a tree, and you get right up to the top of a tree on one of those harnesses, the thing that's amazing is how much they move. I mean, I know we see it, but they really, really move. So it's kind of, they're like that at the top. They're adapting to everything that comes their way. As soon as we become rigid, we break. So the fourth pillar of resilience is adaptability, willingness to change. And how do we become willing to change? Often we have to let our identity be flexible. What does this say about me? We have to be willing to change that. Often I think a lot of rigidity in things comes around identity, but I am that person. I think this way. I do those things. I have these things. I can't do without those things. I am not that person. Dude, life throws us stuff, and the best thing we can do is adapt. And if that means I have to change the view I have of myself and live with that view that others may have of me to survive, I'm just going to have to do it. So I just want to go through those 4 pillars again, because I listen to a load of stuff like this myself, and often I'm frustrated that they don't actually get into tools. This is a little bit of tools, right? If you're trying to build resilience, if you want to become a more resilient person, 4 pillars. Perception. What failure or challenge means to me. Connection. I have a group of people who will support me and challenge me. Purpose. I am connected to a meaning. I am connected to something bigger and more important than self. So therefore I can understand and deal with sacrifice, service, and hardship. Adaptability. I can change in the moment. I'm not rigid. I remain flexible to change. I know that my ups will one day be a downs, my downs will one day be an up. I was talking to someone the other day and he was telling me about this show he went to see, and he said the man started with the line, "You meet everyone twice. Once on the way up, on the way down. So it's good to see you all again." Right? Meaning he was on the way down. Right? And that's how it goes, right? Here we go. Let's remain adaptable. But if you can stick to those 4 pillars, you will remain adaptable. You will remain resilient. You will still be here. And on a long enough timeline, everything becomes okay, really. You know, everything changes. We change. We heal. And on that journey, let's bring this back to the men's specific personal development journey, or as we call it, doing the work. You're going to hit bumps. You're going to plateau. You're going to have a big change here and it feels great. God, I'm the new me. That workshop really worked. That book really worked. That new strategy is really working. Oh, God, I feel back to where I started. And sometimes that we actually have to, ordeal, go down even lower than where we were, to dig around in the messiness, as Joseph Campbell calls it, the belly of the beast. Get down into the guts of it all, the belly of the beast. Start having a look around. Sometimes we have to go lower than where we were so that we can go up higher than we were before. There's often this kind of journey in men's personal development. We go along, we go up, we go down, we go up again, we're higher than we were before, right? So there's always steps back. It's often 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Or rather, because that would actually mean we're going backwards, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So you're going to have to deal with setbacks, challenges, be it uncomfortable, failure on the men's personal development journey. So remember those pillars, right? And how you can do them specifically for the doing the work journey is perception. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. That's a great belief to hold about yourself. Connection. Get in a men's group. Get some support around you. Purpose. Do some work on mission, right? What are you here for? Who do you serve bigger than yourself? How do you impact positively yourself, your family, the community, the planet? And adaptability. How can I become solid enough in my identity of self that it can become flexible? How can I be willing to learn new things no matter how old and set in my ways I feel I am? How can I keep that adaptability? So you can do that by volunteering in places. You can do that by getting involved with especially intergenerational stuff. Why should we do all that? Why? I mean, it comes to a question of why do we do the personal development journey in the first place, really? Because there's a beauty in it. And what's the alternative? Right? We only grow. I only grow when I face challenge, right? We say we want an easy life, but we don't want an easy life because there's nothing beautiful in easy. There's nothing of meaning in easy. The exciting thing about life is it's happening on the edges. It's these highs and it's these lows. And for every high, there will be a low. So to be able to keep turning up and experiencing this thing called life, this thing called growth, and not shutting ourselves down, I need to remain resilient. Otherwise, I will be beaten. So resilience. Keep going. If you wanted to, you could do something around it, Go and have a little look. Pick out some books about resilience. Write a journal about resilience. Here's something you could do on a real basic level. Think back to the hardest thing you've ever survived, right? The biggest bit of trauma, the hardest situation, the hardest thing you've ever gone through. Go back, get a page, just write every lesson that taught you that has made your life better. Write down, no matter how uncomfortable, how it caused you to improve. Right? And this ain't to be trite. Like, as I say, I lost a son. I don't do this stuff lightly, right? It's painful to look back, and it even feels a little bit mean to look back and go, well, what good did I get out of it? Because there's a part of you that goes, how can you get any good out of something like that? But there was, if I dig deep. It doesn't mean it wasn't painful. It doesn't mean I'd want to go through it again. It doesn't mean I'd want anyone else to go through it. But it does mean that I did grow from it. And that actually makes it gives it some worth. It feels like a tribute to my son when I say that. So I'm going to bring it to an end next. I'm getting a little bit emotional with that. But here's what, do that exercise. The most painful thing you've ever gone through. What was the lessons you learned? What was the gifts in it? How has it improved your life, no matter how painful it is? I'd like to know what comes up for you in these ones. So maybe you leave it in the comments or send me an email. Go to the website, laurencehjohns.com, and you can connect with me there. Let me know. It'd be nice to know who you are. All right, so keep connected, keep doing the work, stay resilient. See you all soon. Take care. Bye.